I visited the cheapest and the most premium climbing gyms in Europe.
It's a blessing, it truly is.
To find out what makes the perfect space for indoor climbers.
The whole industry has changed.
Against the landscape of climbing's booming popularity, rising commercial investment and a bubble that risks bursting like the 1990s rollerblading phenomenon. What can two different facilities, on the surface at opposite ends of the scale, teach us about the future of our sport? I started my trip at BoulderKlub, a small self-run bouldering wall in the heart of Luxembourg. At BoulderKlub, or BKL, a single admission costs less than a cup of coffee. The gym's only open for 3 hours a day, but the locals think that they found the secret to a meaningful bouldering experience.
People actually sticking around in the community are what makes it special.
I set out to uncover how much you can really expect for a €2 day pass, and why the staff are willing to work for free.
Hi, I'm Cesar and welcome to BoulderKlub Luxembourg.
This is Cesar, the president of BoulderKlub. And this is Luxembourg, where we met Cesar for a tour of the bouldering wall. As we make our way through town, Cesar tells me that BoulderKlub is run a little differently than most climbing gyms. It's set over 2 floors in a repurposed building, catering for hardcore training as well as casual hobbyists, but at a price that seems impossible.
We're a non-profit, community-based climbing gym in the heart of Luxembourg that is basically run by its members.
Along the River Alzette, BoulderKlub enjoys a scenic location nestled in the heart of Luxembourg City, a designated World Heritage Site. Luxembourg itself is a small country, home to just over 500,000 people, and known best for its free public transport, financial district and castles. It's the country's dedication to culture that's played a pivotal role in allowing BoulderKlub to develop into the unique space I was visiting.
So it started in roughly 2004, truly in the garage of the initial member, the founding member of the BKL. And it has evolved slowly from there. So eventually, with his friends, first getting a space in the basement of a high school and offering an exchange program where that space could be used for the programs of the high school. And eventually in 2014, we moved to this place, where the building itself is government property. It used to be an old, small middle school. Being fortunate enough then to be supported by the government through some subsidies and lower overhead costs, we were able to keep our prices low, continue running this gym without needing to cover these costs, and continue providing a service to the public rather than being focused on building a business.
BoulderKlub's members are volunteers, like Pierre, who take on a variety of different responsibilities at the facility in exchange for access to the gym.
Being a volunteer program where our members come and work for us on a volunteer basis in exchange for free access to the gym, we're very uniquely placed to be able to offer a climbing experience to the public at a reduced price and focus more on access and the experience rather than trying to struggle for a profit, for example. And so we stay authentic to the experience, sort of the garage style climbing that was once known more broadly in the climbing circles.
At BoulderKlub Luxembourg, we were meeting a grassroots community helping to build connections in our sport, but it's not just the spaces that we climb in that can develop that sense of community and belonging in climbing. New and emerging brands are also helping to contribute to the developing climbing community, which is why we're super excited to be working with Rungne on this video. Not only do Rungne create genuinely high quality and durable climbing apparel and products, I really like their chalk, and I've worn my harness wide pants, the pants that I'm wearing in this video, basically endlessly since I got them. But they're also supporting authentic storytelling in a new emerging climbing media as it develops online by supporting channels like mine and other channels in climbing across YouTube. So if you would like to support them and if you would like to support this channel, then you can use code Hannah for 10% across the entire Rungne website. Passing through the makeshift reception desk, a wooden stand with a metal money box, it was easy to be skeptical about what we'd walk into. BoulderKlub opens up into a small, colourful bouldering space, not so dissimilar from a typical commercial wall, catering to a wide range of abilities.
So here you have the main area of climbing with some of our members and Hannah having some fun in the back. This is basically the public climbing space. So you have all the routes here, you have the tags to talk about the difficulties on the climbs.
For a single room, the climbing space packs a big variety in angles. This results in a setting style that's less about flashy dynos and more about creative, offbeat problems.
It's a challenge because the walls aren't as high sometimes as the bigger climbing gyms. As a result, what you can do by just extended a route just going upwards isn't feasible, and you quickly reach the top out, or holds end up being too close to be able to really like extend moves just vertically. So we have to be creative in how we can create challenge for our customers, our guests coming and climbing here.
There's an inherent charm in the irregularities. A weird volume placement here, a surprisingly spicy slab there, and a few eye-wateringly difficult benchmarks that Pierre and César pointed out. But upstairs on the second floor is where the value of entry is taken up another level. Even if the selection of routes downstairs ran out fairly quickly, the selection of training tools upstairs, packed into repurposed classrooms, offers reasons to keep coming back.
So here we have more of the training area walls and training equipment. So we have a moon board in this room here. We have our campus board. Also, it's like a nice little cavernous place, very homely. So we have our two spray walls, one at a 50-degree angle, I believe, and this one at a 40-degree angle.
The setup is simple, but it's clearly well used. And much of the infrastructure has been built or maintained by the community itself, and the members actively play a role in shaping the wall.
The people initially running the Bouldering Club of Luxembourg, BKL, set up this spray wall. This wall has been added in the past couple of years through some renovation. The mats are new also. Because the club is sort of also run by its members, and they'll meet yearly or ad hoc to decide what they want to do with the space. And so it can change, and it's flexible and it's fluid and modular in that sense.
There's no hiding the garage influence that César pointed out. The dusty shelves and patchwork decor might take garagecore a bit too literally.
We can turn the lights on also.
But artefacts like the shower room turned hold store and the self-made wooden board upstairs feel like the symbols of a community who have ownership over their space.
This is the communal changing room, but it's also basically where we store our holds. At the end, it also brings our guests into the experience where they see the holds and things like that, which can be also a fun part of the experience in itself.
Although Boulder Club might not boast designer lighting or a smoothie bar, what it lacks in polish, it makes up for in soul. Perhaps the most defining feature of BoulderKlub Letzberg is its community.
Cool. I'm Sebastian. I have been a member here for about 2.5 years now. That involves setting, opening, events coordinator now, so a little bit of everything.
Members aren't just customers, they're caretakers and stewards. They sweep the floors, organise climbing nights, and even help to run the space.
So I'm Nat. I've been a member for close to 2 years now. Summer on, it'll be 2 years.
Sebastian is one of about 20 or so members who currently help to keep Boulder Club open to the public, unlocking the doors at around 6 p.m. every evening for their typically laissez-faire approach to opening hours.
So very flexible. We don't have a super rigid flex. Well, I mean, we are open 6 days a week from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., but it's not to a fixed schedule. So for example, I come on Wednesdays. I generally open a bit earlier for friends to come and enjoy the climb without it being too packed already. And generally, depending on the vibe of people, if they don't have work too early after or something, we are generally open until the last man standing. So
the volunteer-led model fosters a deep sense of ownership and connection. It's a place where beginners feel welcome, where climbing partners become friends, and where the lines between visitor and contributor blur completely.
The neat thing is, as a member, the trade-off is you work, it's like a co-op, you can climb for free, you come in whenever you want. And then if you're not a member, it's 2 years if you're a student, 5 years if you're not. So it's minuscule. And especially compared to any other gym, it's great. It's nothing.
For Boulder Club's members, the gym occupies a kind of third space, somewhere between home and work.
So when I first came into this gym, it was my first time bouldering in Luxembourg, and I had not met anyone as of yet who could show me the ropes of how this gym worked. Fairly quickly I got introduced to everyone around, and it turned into a family-style membership. It's like you go to a family dinner and you kind of contribute, but no one expects anything from you. So you can bring a salad, you can bring a hot dog, you can bring a sauce, you can bring dessert. It kind of works the same here, where everyone does their little bit and everyone tries to take care of the space because we get to use it and play with it the way we like.
With a good grasp on the ethos behind BoulderKlub, I wanted to ask Cesar more about the challenges that they faced. Route setting, for a start, is a vital ingredient to an indoor climbing experience. But without a professionalised setup, I was curious how the boulders were kept fresh, and more importantly, how the visitors kept safe.
So we have one main setter. His name is Cécile Claudel, and he's a long-time member of the BKL, and he has been an instrumental part of also helping the club exist and develop. He is our head setter and arguably our sole setter initially, and everything setting related, holds on the wall related, go through him. So we have some layer of sort of accountability and responsibility also, while we truly want to make this a holistic, sort of fun experience for all of our members by giving them access to the wall. And I think there's some beauty to having our members on the wall, sort of their identity, their creativity, and featuring everybody's style. We still need to have a layer of responsibility because this is where the safety element starts to play a role. But it's a fairly easy process in terms of just keeping him informed and him having certain ownership of, well, you can sit in this area of the gym, or we need more of this difficulty, so try doing something like that, or well, just let me make sure you can be responsible with the tool so you don't hurt yourself, but you're also not doing something that could eventually hurt the public. Beyond that, it's a pretty free-form experience of being able to set. As long as you're showing interest, we'll try to make that possible for you.
But delegating and managing responsibilities like route setting isn't the only challenge that BoulderKlub faces. There are less expected problems, like providing climbing shoes for newcomers.
Look at the shoes situation. If you want to give
I think most of the shoes are donated, and some of them have holes as well, so it's pretty tough to actually climb for your first time with just these donated rental shoes.
And if you're a size 10.5 and above, if you're not there within the first 3 minutes,
there's 2 pair of shoes to grab, and then you're kind of out of shoes, so it's also, it just limits the amount of people that can come in from beginners who don't have their shoes. Donate your shoes.
Please donate your shoes.
At BoulderKlub, climbing is simply a place to explore, a backdrop against which relationships are formed, and a space where the local population comes together to socialise, take part in activity, and to give back.
What makes a great bouldering wall and gym, I would say, for me personally, it's definitely the vibe and the energy of the place. Also the familiar faces, being able to just, I think, especially in this place, it's just the flexibility of it all.
People. It's mainly about the people.
I think a mix of vibe and good setting. Good setting, I think, really keeps people going, but the vibe, like if you feel comfortable there, you feel like you can come back all the time. Whereas, I don't know, some spaces, they're huge, they're totally open, and you're not meeting people that much, you can kind of stick to yourself.
When you have a space so clearly shaped by its members, I think it's only fitting that that space reflects the parts of climbing that those members cherish. And I think what's clear at BoulderKlub Luxembourg is that what really runs through their whole approach is this idea that climbing should be accessible to everybody and not something that feels exclusive. I was curious to see how BKL would stack up against a premium experience, so I guess like the very best that modern climbing has to offer by way of facilities. But before we headed over the border into Switzerland, we had one more stop to make in Luxembourg City. I think it really speaks to the character of BoulderKlub generally that when I first messaged Cesar, he suggested that we not only profile BoulderKlub Luxembourg, but that he also suggested that we meet another small group of climbers who are helping to develop the climbing scene in Luxembourg City. A short bike ride across town, Cesar introduced us to Alex, who heads up BoulderKlub Mamer.
Hi, I'm Alex. Here we are in lovely Mamer in Luxembourg City. We built this outdoor boulder a couple of years ago, and the idea was to make bouldering more accessible for everyone.
Although it is run separately, this outdoor space feels part of the same grassroots movement inside BoulderKlub Luxembourg. It too has local authority backing, invites communal responsibility, and with a remarkably low entry cost.
So yeah, here there's no entry fees. Everybody can just come and boulder. There's a very small yearly membership fee, and after that you have access to this boulder basically 24/7, There's a monthly resetting. I'm going on. You
The outdoor wall is a single archway style boulder with a short roof and a pebbled floor to provide a small amount of fall protection. The problems are set from easy to hard, but also there's an integrated moonboard on one end.
Yeah, as you can see, we got it locked down. I know this is not a huge challenge for climbers, so technically anybody could still come and steal holes, steal volumes, graffiti this thing. These were all big questions we had initially, and we are very happy the way it goes, because all over the few years we have this now, nothing has happened, no vandalism, nothing.
As the day drew to a close, I was leaving Luxembourg feeling that both BoulderKlub Luxembourg and BoulderKlub Mamer offered an insight into what is possible when communities are trusted to shape their own spaces. And they set an example for how stewardship can work best in our sport.
We were the first ones to come up with this idea. Since we've built it, there's one more not too far from here and one smaller one in Berdorf next to the other climbing area. So yeah, people take this inspiration, and obviously I want to see them everywhere. I want to have this access anywhere. There has been some talk of getting a similar structure closer to city center, where there's a lot more traffic, but no concrete plans, or not that I know of.
Of course, these bouldering spaces didn't have everything. They only had a small selection of problems, no co-working spaces, but just maybe, they had the one thing that climbers seek most, a sense of belonging. A touch under 300 miles south of Luxembourg City, on the outskirts of Zurich, I arrived at a completely different type of bouldering gym. As I approached from the outside, I couldn't help but feel a slight sense of awe. Gaswerk Bardensville is one of 3 centres under the same ownership in Zurich, but each with its own character. This is the newest of 3 and where I started my day, keen to take in everything that my day pass would offer. So I guess first impressions are, it's expansive. We're in just one of the halls, and this is kind of like maybe the biggest lead climbing section. And already I'm seeing a really great variety of like modern holds. I'm just seeing a lot of space and like a lot of climbing. Inside the main climbing hall, the space feels like entering a boutique fitness studio fused with a modern art museum. The architecture is pristine, expansive windows let in natural light, with lead, speed and auto belay stations. I've been to climbing gyms all over the world, but as I stepped into my harness, I couldn't recall many like this. The route setting at Gaswerk is equally refined. Professional setters, weekly resets and a style that leads towards the modern aesthetic. The centre marks the frontier of what is now a multi-million-dollar industry. Its emergence from an untraditional exercise to a mainstream sport, embedded in public consciousness since the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. Gaswerk Bardensville feels set up to perfectly cater to a broad audience, welcoming customers with a sleek coffee bar, pristine locker rooms, a place to shelter from the wet weather, or to embrace the sunshine outside. Inside the boulder hall, I found an expansive bouldering playground, set inside the climbing gym. Like peeling back the layers on a Russian doll, it was only a part of Gaswerk's exhibition, but it did dwarf BoulderKlub's bouldering space. It didn't benefit from the same imposing architecture and airy layout as the main room, but offered routes that could entertain climbers at every level. Like BoulderKlub, they were often inventive to work around irregularly shaped spaces, but combined a spray wall and a bigger selection of wall angles across 2 floors. But it's true that all of this comes at a cost. A day pass will set you back €38 on a weekday and €45 on a weekend. And if you're like me, and you might be finished with your session in an hour or 2, pumped out on the head wall, that price might feel a little bit steep, pardon the pun. But I think for many people, the entry price is way worth it for the facilities that you get once you're in. When I think about what makes a climbing gym special to me, I might think about things like architecture, route setting, the community vibe, how friendly it feels, and the values of the climbing gym and the messaging that they're sharing. But I think the true answer probably depends on who it is that you're asking. An elite athlete might be looking for a set of high-end routes and boulders that most of us could never touch, and I think that they would find that here at Gaswerk. But a busy lifestyle climber might just ask for early opening times, a place to climb and shower before work. And I think what really does set Gaswerk apart is that it's able to deliver for almost every type of climber fairly effectively. Of course, for some, this luxury might feel overly commercial, but Gaswerk spaces have grown with the climbing industry. They're part of the sport's history and they have a story to tell, and their roots are still preserved, just 20 miles away in the original Gaswerk Schlieren site.
Okay, I'm Lucian, I'm one of the leadership guys from the Gaswerk and I will show you around Gaswerk Climbing Center.
Gaswerk Schlieren is housed inside a century-old stone building, now preserved as a cultural heritage site, which was once home to gasworks in Zurich, where coal was processed to provide fuel to the city. In 1994, in the pioneering era of indoor climbing, Patrick Hilbert set out to convert the building, undertaking every aspect of the project from design to construction. It began as a modest DIY venture, housed in a single chamber.
Okay, we're right here in the original climbing center, Gaswerk, which 1994 was one of the two first climbing gyms in Switzerland.
Before the colossal infrastructure across 3 locations came this single space, complete with hand-carved engravings and paintings, and wall structures that you'd be unlikely to find elsewhere today.
Yes, these panels are made of wood, so it's one of the first wooden construction, and they did it themselves, like with the they had a lot of fun, like doing all this crazy stuff like animals or freaky things, and they really painted it by themselves right here in like 100 meters beside.
It felt very much like the soul of the building, the roots from which Gaswerk had grown. And as we moved into the collection of larger halls, which were added gradually over time, there were signs of how indoor climbing has developed. Fiberglass panels installed to replicate outdoor rock texture, and circular cutouts where modular climbing holds previously slotted in. But there is a constant link here between past and present. Each route has a digital information screen by its start hole, for example, where route setters can automatically update the grade and name when the route is reset. And that process is no small feat in a centre this size.
Lead routes, it depends a bit, between 250 300, and boulders. In this centre is not so much boulders, but still there is over 100 boulders, so you can do a lot of stuff here, yes.
We headed upstairs via a maze of staircases that kind of felt like navigating a real-world Hogwarts moving staircase, with walkways shooting off into multi-level landings and refuges. Within the space of a decade and several construction phases, Gaswerk Schlieren grew from a single hall to 5, and by the turn of the century was one of the largest climbing centres in the world. As a result, it feels handcrafted, as though someone has imagined a fantastical climbing palace and set to work with a set of Lego bricks. And with a few climbing gym models to follow at the time, I suppose that probably wasn't too far from the reality. Lucian pointed out a dedicated conditioning area now essential for modern customers, as well as instructional stations designed to help safely ease newcomers into the sport. And eventually we reached a small ladder, which was used to access one of the oldest bouldering spaces at the top of the building.
By us it's named the Cave of the Monkeys, which really was then a days the only training area, and still we left the really old board from maybe 20 years. It doesn't hurt us to have it here. It's really cool to have this history. While other parts, yes, we have to modernize, and it's easier to build a new climbing gym than to modern an old one for us. So for us it's really much more easy, not only in case of money, but all around it, it's much more easy. You build a new gym, perfect climate, perfect everything, and then you can do whatever you want. But in an old one, to modernize, it's so hard. But still you have to. So for us it's cool to modernize, but still have some old areas.
Next door, in this attic-style space, was a further window into the history of Gaswerk, revealing a dimly lit room covered from floor to ceiling in holds. It's in these areas that you can feel the connection to climbing's roots. Gaswerk's decision to leave well-loved wooden slats untouched and balance old with new is, I think, a marker of the institution understanding our connection to climbing. Just like in BoulderKlub, you sense the place that Gaswerk holds in climbing's cultural development. Gaswerk is still a commercial endeavour, but I think that investment and that enterprise has created a climbing experience that will be valuable to many, many people for many years to come. But price, as Lutzen told me, is a constant trade-off for a premium facility.
Yes, we have to look after this like also a lot of past time, because we are a climbing gym or climbing gyms, these 3 gyms with a high quality standard. So that means that our single entries are high. So some people, they don't want to spend this single entry for coming once, but then our thing is that a yearship member card is low in this comparison.
Yeah.
So we really, because we and our staff live from the people coming time by time, and we wanted to have open in summer as well, like on the days as well. And to have providing this, you need a lot of people coming, and that makes us proud at the end that we can even pay salaries for people who are having a good life while climbing and working in our center, and that's cool, yes.
Yeah.
Across 3 locations, the Gaswerk facilities offered more than I've seen before in one city.
Like in Greifensee, we have a cool boulder area, which is big as well outside bouldering, while there is not a lot of outside climbing. While in Wädenswil, the new gym, there is a lot of outside climbing, no outside bouldering. It's higher in Wädenswil than in Greifensee, so yes, we have some varieties, and at the end we're really looking forward that every customer can have like this yearship card, which costs only a little more for all 3 gyms, so they can switch between even these feelings.
Yes.
But some they only like the new feeling or the old feeling here, and they come here, and it's good.
As we made our way back through the bouldering areas, where I got to grips with the local style, I reflected on everything I'd seen over the last few days. From Luxembourg City to Zurich, one thing stood out, that these spaces were more than just activity centres. They were community spaces, cultural landmarks, even identity symbols for our ever-growing but still quirky pastime. So on the face of things, Gaswerk and BoulderKlub Luxembourg kind of offer 2 quite different experiences of what climbing can be. One is high-end, luxury, meticulously curated perhaps, with commercial goals and aims, whereas the other is more grassroots, a little more rough around the edges, I think it's fair to say, but with community really at its heart. But I think what's really important to note, having spent time at both, is that they're not polar opposites by any stretch of the imagination. Each retain a really strong and deep respect for climbing's roots and really care about where climbing is headed and how to create a great climbing experience for their customers. Neither facility is inherently better or worse, in my opinion. I think for some, the structure and the professionalism of Gaswerk provides the kind of environment that they look for in a premium climbing gym experience, whereas for others, I think the more DIY, communal, community feel of BoulderKlub Luxembourg kind of speaks to what it is that they find meaningful in climbing in the first place. I think these 2 gyms do highlight a central tension. Is climbing a product to be consumed, or is it a culture to be shared? And can any gym do both effectively and authentically? So whether you find yourself clipping roots in a state-of-the-art facility in Zurich, or brushing holds from the 90s in a more garage, basement feeling gym in Luxembourg, I think the heart of what makes these places special still remains the same, and it's that love of connection, movement, community, and the people that make up the space.